Ladies and gentlemen, the show we've all been waiting for. Paranormal Buzz Radio is proud to present REP Paranormal and Friends with your hosts, Kim Purvis and Ellison Robinson. Live every Thursday night on Spreaker, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. Be sure to check out their Facebook page, REP Paranormal Busters.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
There you go. All right. Well, welcome to another night. We have some special guests tonight. We have Creepz on tonight. Alec and Adam. So welcome.
Well, hello. Thank you very much for having us.
Yes, thank you.
No problem. So, what have you guys been up to? Or do you have anything that you guys have planned for a next investigation?
You know, surprisingly, we kind of do. One of our most recent things we did, and I just remember this, we were talking a little bit before the show, our last official investigation was at McIntyre Villa in Atchison, Kansas. But after that, Alec and I have recently gone into the education side of paranormal, the educational side of the paranormal field, where we recently went to a school and taught 6th through 8th graders basically the fundamentals of paranormal investigating.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
Yeah,
there was a picture of one of you or something walking into the school and said something about educated. I do remember that.
Mm-hmm. That was it.
That was it?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
That was a good time. They had probably 40 6th through 8th graders who basically got a choice in signing up for what they wanted to learn about that day. They could have gone on a field trip. They could have gone to play football or basketball in the gym. But the teachers were very impressed with how much the little kids liked or were interested in the paranormal. So go for the paranormal industry.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, that is pretty cool. Because, most kids you would think would be kind of scared to learn that stuff at that age, but I guess not.
This day and age.
I know.
The kids of the 2000s are just being more open to these kind of things, and I think it's wonderful that the school, came to us and said, "Hey, will you come in and teach these kids?" We're like, "Are you sure?"
Did you bring your equipment and stuff for them to look at, or?
Yeah, we sure did.
We did.
Yeah. We definitely wanted to treat it as a show and tell, and kind of going back to your point earlier about not wanting to scare the little kids. Mm-hmm. Adam and I had to be very careful about talking about some of the places we've been to. We showed them pictures of where we've been, like the Missouri State Penitentiary and the gas chamber, and trying to explain to a little kid what a gas chamber is.
Oh, right? Yeah. That'd be kind of hard.
Yeah, it was a challenge, but we were very careful with our words, and really just wanted to make this a memorable experience. And a good way to do that was to show all the gadgets that we used during a live investigation.
Right. We kind of just sort of hopped over, like Alec was saying, the scary moments, and again, the fundamentals, how to investigate, what to investigate with, and the other W's and H questions that you can ask.
Uh-huh.
Is there only one? It's only how.
Yeah, that's right.
And what, where, why,
right.
How. Yeah, okay.
We have taken her daughter to Farrar
my oldest one.
And she refused to go in the boiler room and the auditorium. She did not like those two places.
Yeah, she
That
said that
boiler
when she
room.
walked into the auditorium, there was too many of them there, and it just overwhelmed her. So,
Really? So
Oh, yeah.
she felt the presence there. It felt a different energy that kind of pushed her away. Is that what
Yeah.
she felt?
She's like her mother. They can feel the spirits when they're there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's good.
most definitely.
Would you call that a gift, or do you feel like it's not quite such a gift?
I don't know. Sometimes it's kind of a burden.
A burden, sure.
Because I'm starting to hear them too when they talk. So, yeah.
She-
Wow, it's interesting.
We need to get her to learn to ground herself and build that bubble around herself.
Yeah. My daughter doesn't have that part yet, but
That'll come. Adam and I, we can't hear things. Really, we're just explorers and investigators.
Right.
But there's times where, we get the goosebump effect. And I think that's just part of human nature and how our bodies and our minds work. Right. We were talking about some of your experiences at Edinburgh Manor. And the first and only time Adam and I went to Edinburgh Manor with our friends from Unknown Darkness, I think we walked towards where the boys, the men were held. I guess split up, boys on one side, girls on the other.
Right.
And they didn't tell us which side was the more aggressive side. But when we started walking down, I think it was towards the boys' side, you could feel just a different energy.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. I get that.
Oh, okay.
Especially in the game room, I get the goosebumps and everything, and there is one just atop the stairs. They had the blue curtains in it. They called it the blue room.
Yeah.
I'd get an instant headache in that room every time I walked into it.
Huh.
I don't know what it was about that room, but I had to leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, you've got to trust what you feel. That was one of the lessons we tried to teach, even though we were showing, like the kids a REM pod or a K2 meter, a MEL meter, or a FLIR camera. The best tool that you could use during your investigation is how you feel.
Yep.
That is true. Now, do you guys have a favorite? Any favorite equipment that you like to use the most, or?
Yes.
What's yours?
I was recently asked that question, and I said the SB7 Spirit Box, which is kind of funny because I don't know if it's funny or not, but Alec mainly uses that. He carries that with him all the time. But I love the results that you can get from an SB7,
right?
Because especially when you apply a certain rule to it, you can ask questions, but if you get like one syllable words, you kind of got to throw it out, especially if it's just like I said, a syllable. But when you, for example, we were at a place here locally called Longview Mansion. It's in Lee Summit, Missouri. Is that it? Yeah. We were using the SB7 Spirit Box, and we asked the question, is there anybody here want to speak with us? I think it was. It's something along those lines. And very clearly, through this SB7 Spirit Box, you heard the name Lula. And that is it's not a very common name.
Right.
Yeah.
Clear as day, you can hear Lula, and Lula was the former owner of the Longview Mansion.
Oh, wow. That's pretty crazy.
When the SB7 Spirit Box gets evidence like that, gets results like that, that makes it definitely one of my top favorite pieces of equipment because it's clear. It's hard to argue whether or not what it was. I mean, that was clear.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Another one on SB7, same place. You guys were in the basement, and you asked if anybody was attached to the furniture, and you got
yes.
Yep, I am real clear. I watched that not too long ago.
That's right.
That's what turns you into a believer with the SB7. You know, I know there's a lot of debates out there because it's cycling through all these radio stations. And, you know, we pay very close attention to when the static kind of slows down, when the static goes away and a clear voice comes through with multiple syllables, 2, 3, or sometimes 4 syllables. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's hard, and it relates directly to your question. That's hard to argue. And going back to one of our favorite places ever, the Farrar Schoolhouse, we were up by the stage, and I forget how we phrased the question, but it was, you know, we're trying to solve the mystery of who's haunting Farrar. Mm-hmm. And 3-syllable answer came through. We didn't pick it up at the time. At the time, we thought it said angry. Mm-hmm. But when we slowed down the audio, it was very clear, and the 3-syllable word was janitor.
Oh yeah. Kim was gonna talk about that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Shay is wanting to know how long you guys have been investigating,
or a team,
or as a team. She wants to know both of those.
Officially, I think we really kicked it off in 2008, and by I think November or so, we had our first official investigation in November 2008. I think it was, or does that sound right?
Yep, that's correct. And Adam's my brother, and our other guy Gideon. He wasn't able to join us tonight, but we've known Gideon since he was a little kid. So basically, we grew up together. We're just a team of 3. We've always been 3. We'll probably continue to stay 3 unless Adam's dog Chiefs comes along.
Why not? Bring Chiefs.
But that's the history of the team, and it's crazy. We're coming up on 10 years of doing this, and the 10 years has just gone by so fast.
Oh yeah, that's pretty awesome.
See, we've been at it 4 years now. Yeah.
Excellent. Good.
Start our 5th year.
Yeah, this is the start of our 5th year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you're going good.
Yeah, we are. I'd like to travel out, a little bit farther, different states.
We're gonna get to different states. It's just money wise right now that's the hard part.
Oh yeah, I know.
So I want to get out to Gettysburg and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Have you guys ever done Gettysburg? Have you ever ventured out that far?
Not.
No.
Closest thing that we've done is here in Kansas City. We have a big, Civil War history. You had the border war between Kansas and Missouri, where you have pro-slavery versus anti-slavery, even prior to the Civil War. You have John Brown and his abolitionists fighting along the Kansas and Missouri border, right here in the Kansas City area. So, locations for Civil War battles would be like Harris Kearney House in Kansas City, John Warnell House. What are the other two? There's like maybe two others for sure.
Yeah, Alexander Majors, I think was close to, that's right on the state line road, which separates Kansas and Missouri. So, some hot battles went down there.
Oh, yeah.
Rice Tremonti House.
Mm-hmm.
Rice Tremonti House was a famous stopping point on the Santa Fe Trail that was cutting through Kansas City. And, fast forward a few 20 years or whatever, I think it was built like in the 1840s. So you get to the Civil War, and one of the famous orders that were established by the Union Army was to go to the other side, or to the pro-slavery side or Confederate side, and burn down their houses if they declared that they weren't going to be a part of the Union. And surprisingly, this house survived that General Order Number 11. And nobody knows for sure why it survived. Maybe they used it as a headquarters or something. But that's about as close as that we've got to Gettysburg.
Right.
But still, would love to go to the actual Gettysburg battlefield site as well.
Awesome. Shay said she's going in June, so that'll be awesome.
Nice.
So she'll have to let me know how that goes.
No kid?
Yeah, that's going to be a fun trip, Shay. So we usually have, anytime we do an investigation, we like to focus on the Midwest. I've kind of got a strict rule. If we're driving, I like to keep it within 5 hours.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
But Kim said, I mean, I don't like paying for a hotel. And when you're yeah, exactly. When you're a paranormal investigator, we always say that time is your worst enemy. Right. So if we're making a 3 or 5 hour trip, we're going to spend as much time at that location as possible. Sure, we're not going to sleep. Sure, it's dangerous to drive back 5 hours on no sleep. Right. That's just dumb, but we've done it before, and by the grace of God, we've survived.
Probably won't do that again unless we have sufficient amount of sleep in us.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like the hand in your book.
Yes, exactly. Yep. That's.
I remember you guys talking about that at Farrar too.
Yeah, I figured that was appropriate to talk about there because that was after a Farrar investigation, and honest to God, I was driving along. I was tired, shouldn't have been driving, and I turned around to see Gid in the back seat reaching out with his hand to like tap me on the shoulder, and then all of a sudden that hand disappeared and. The real Gideon was there asleep, leaning his head against the window. So I was tripping, and I had to tell Alec immediately. I'm like, "Yo, this is what I just saw."
Yeah, we didn't even cross the Iowa border at that point. We still had a long way to go. But that woke us up. And another good trick is if you've ever seen Ace Ventura, the old Jim Carrey movies.
Yes.
Stick your head out the window and just get
get some fresh air. My cousin actually did that on the way home from one.
Nice.
Yeah, she was sticking her head out the window.
Yeah, you get that blast of oxygen, man. That's a good half-hour boost right there.
Right, especially if it's cold outside too.
Yes.
Sometimes if we have a long drive, the one that's driving, we make go sleep for a couple hours while we still investigate. But they don't like to go to sleep, but we need somebody awake.
Right, I know.
Sure, yeah.
Shay says she loves your artwork.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Shay. I appreciate that. It's hard to see. I know this. We're not live. We're not shooting live video here, right? We're not broadcasting live video, but you two can see in the background. I got my easel right here next to me. I'm in my office here, and I got a drawing not too far away from me. It's about to be published by Katie Hopkins. It's illustrations for her, doing work through Haunted Road Media. And I got a set of 5 new illustrations to send to Mike Ricksecker and her and get her book published here real soon.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
I have one question. How did your picture end up in Zach Baggins' museum? I think it's cool.
Well, let's just say that was a little bit of luck. Honestly, I started out with doing a drawing of Aaron Goodwin of Ghost Adventures. He had a art studio himself in Las Vegas.
Yep.
I sent his drawing plus a book to his address, but he had just moved from that address and it got bounced back to me, and I still have his drawing still packaged up, ready to go. So I thought, all right, well, eventually I'm sure I'll get this to Aaron somehow, some way, because he's really into art and doing his own art. I'm sure he would appreciate it. So I got to thinking, what if I did one for Zach and made it? Well, I did, and actually made that drawing maybe over close to a year ago, but it didn't hit me until maybe 4 or 5 months later that I'm like, well, he has a museum now. I wonder if he would like this for his museum. And, or at least I didn't technically think he would like it for his museum. I mean, that was just a wishful thinking. I thought maybe he'd like put it up in his house. It's just some fan art. So I sent it to him to the only address that I knew, Zach Baggins Museum, which anybody could find on Google, the address. I mean, it's a business.
Right.
So I sent it, and he got it. He didn't respond personally back to me, but his assistant did. He said, "You'll be happy to know that Zach loves the drawing, and he has it hanging up in the ticket box office, which I did not expect. I thought I was just sending it to Zach as a fan.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
That is pretty cool.
Okay, you had some more questions over there?
Yeah. I was looking through Baker University. Did you guys ever figure out the easel thing?
Tried.
That is still a mystery today.
Now, did it happen twice?
It did not. No,
Okay,
it only
so it was
happened
just a replay?
once. Yeah. So that was Baker. We really need to thank Jim and Tammy Beth of Earthbound Voices Paranormal for making all the arrangements there. We kind of teamed up, and we were privileged enough to take their faculty and a few lucky students around the campus. And this is a historic campus. It predates 1860, and it's the oldest university in the state of Kansas. So we're like, heck yeah, we'll help out in any way. So that was the first group that we took. So we kind of split up and did some shifts. And this was up in an art room. And this is just too good to be true. We were giving our education piece and getting ready to turn out the lights, and then all of a sudden we hear this massive crash, and I thought somebody fell. Because we're always talking about safety first. It's going to get dark. Yeah, but turned the lights back on, and actually somebody saw it. They were watching it. It was kind of bouncing a little bit, and it just fell over and landed perfectly on a table with a bunch of glass pieces that students were drawing for still art. We set it back up and jumped around it for about 15, 20 minutes, walked around it just in case, maybe it was a creaky floorboard, but the floor was solid. Put the camera on it. There was no visible signs of cold or warm breezes that could have knocked that over. And it happened probably about 10 o'clock at night. So that easel had been standing all day on a Saturday.
Right.
If it had stability problems, we would have found it on the ground when we got there. So still a mystery today.
And you can still see in that video, everybody's sitting down at the table. I mean, nobody's jumping around or nothing. It just, like Alex said, all of a sudden.
Yeah, everybody was sitting there, and then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, they started clapping, and I thought, "Oh man, they think we staged this." No, we don't do that. We pull a very honest investigation, and we're not that good to pull off a stunt like that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Also, another thing, when you guys were getting those responses, you were by that case with like was it a gun or something, or the bullets? It almost sounded like that whisper was saying Dennis. Like
yeah, that's right. So
was that the president?
Yep, a former president. Yeah, one of the resources that we had to help us with Baker University historical facts was forgive me, I forget her title, but she was great. She's kind of the curator of some of the museum pieces that they have there. So she was a Baker University expert, and she had told us about the previous Baker leadership, and I think Principal Dennis dated back to the early 1900s. And he was kind of, I think notorious president for good reasons, and one of the more well-known presidents in the day. And I think it came through on the SB7 Spirit box next to his historic desk. That they didn't know whose desk it was, but they felt like that sort of brought confirmation to that possibly being his desk.
Yeah, I do remember it saying that. Also, I think you guys were upstairs, and there was that Lexi. Were you guys using the REM pod? You had some... Okay, yeah, and she was being like affected, and like the REM pod was. That was
so strange.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, so like you were just saying, Allison, to recap that, we were setting up the REM pod, seeing if we can interact with any potential spirit that could be up there, and all of a sudden one of the guests just started getting emotional, And that's always fascinating to see because, this was a girl that was, hanging out with us all night, normal emotions all throughout the night, just out having an exciting time on a paranormal investigation. All of a sudden started talking about, I think, what was one of the local fires nearby at one of the frat houses or something. And she just started suddenly getting emotional. I was like, that's hard for me to comprehend, but
Right.
got to, because it's actually happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seemed like you guys were getting responses to your questions too, which was pretty.
Yeah, from that point, we had some very interesting REM pod activity. I know we were all kind of circled around it within close quarters, but that REM pod was quiet all night. That's just the human emotion that was going on around there. She was seriously affected, and we kind of had to console her afterwards during that session. Luckily, they had some of the faculty that was there to help, but that was a powerful experience for her, and I'm sure she's never going to forget that.
Oh, probably not. Most definitely not.
Let's see.
Do you have anything?
In the McIntyre Villa, when you guys were up in the attic, remember you had the thermal cam going and you thought something was moving? Did you ever figure out what that was?
I know what you're talking about. We reviewed that, but I didn't review it thoroughly enough.
Yeah.
Like, I reviewed it that night when we came home. I got to blow it up and put it into our video editor. But no, I mean, that discoloration did happen. It was almost near the back of a couch or like on the side of a chair. So sometimes the thermal cam will fluctuate to kind of reset itself to make sure it gives you accurate reads. But normally the whole screen will flash and then kind of go back to a reset. This was something in the middle.
Right.
So it actually looked like an actual temperature change in the very middle of the screen. I can't remember for sure. Were we getting results or were we getting some sort of activity? Because I think I was filming that far away while Alec, actually I was close to one of the windows. Alec and Gideon were in the middle of the attic. I don't know, I was filming them from far away.
And then they came over by you, and then they all looked at the camera, and I think it was Gideon that said, there's something moving back there, and Alec walked back where they thought it was, and it would quit, and then as soon as he left, it kept moving again. Yeah,
that's right. When I walked over there, I kind of walked to the place where I thought the camera was focusing on, but I went way past it, apparently. I went to a corner of the roof thinking, maybe there's a spot where breezes are coming through. And I think that was on the northwest side of the building. So anytime during that, we're looking at the weather conditions to see where's the wind coming in. And the wind was coming in from the northwest side because it was snow and rainy. So we were getting, remember, we're in Kansas, so we're getting a lot of the cold weather that was coming down from Nebraska. So that's northwest of where we're at. Right. So that was my theory. But the fact that the FLIR camera was picking up temperature fluctuations right in the middle of the attic, that's
instead of all over.
Yeah. That's what we need to realize.
It was cool to watch, I'll tell you that much.
Good.
I'm glad it translated well through the camera. I recently purchased a whole bunch of stands and holders to make sure I give the viewer a nice steady view. So I'm glad that came through pretty good.
Yep. And let's see.
Yeah, Adam he has some crazy inventions. That was the first time where he premiered what'd you call it? The Docupus?
The Docupus, yes.
Yeah. So
it documents with so many different arms and attachments to it.
So he whips this thing out and he's just attaching. He's got his FLIR camera, he's got his Ovilus, he's got his Sony Night Shot cam. He probably had some other things, some K2s. I'm like, man, holy smokes. This thing, people said it kind of looks heavy, but I don't think it was too heavy, right? It's kind of comfortable to carry around.
most of the night it wasn't heavy until half the night I stuck part of it in my belt loop, and that I kept it up that way, which worked. I mean, it worked like a harness. My belt did for the whole thing, and obviously it documented pretty well. And we got it held the Ovilus 5 out front. We were able to get some pretty strange words through that. Docupus or not, one of the strange experiences at McIntyre was, and I guess they've had other results in the same room. I don't know if second floor. I don't even know what room to call it. It was just one of the middle rooms. And it says something like old woman irritated or something along those lines, or agitated. And I guess I need to go back and see other people's investigations, but I think they've had similar encounters of like an old woman or at least a woman's spirit in that same area. So to tie those two together, I mean, that's fascinating stuff happening at McIntyre.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I have another place here, Aunt Sophie's cabin. You heard the 3 knocks on the screen door? Did you ever figure out what you saw?
Oh, goodness. That's totally Alec for sure.
Yeah, so this is at Rice Tremonti House in Raytown, Missouri.
Yep.
I think it was in July or August. I remember that was a hot day. Gideon and I were kind of just taking a small break and talking about what's our next move going to be. Adam was down in the basement resetting one of his cameras. And I hear some knocking at the back door, and I'm like, we get into safety first mode because we really want to protect the location that we're investigating. The door was locked, so I figured maybe it was somebody, one of the board of directors at the Rice Tremonti House.
Yeah.
So I go walking towards the door, but I look out the window and I see a figure walking towards the woods. Behind the house there was woods, and I know it could have been a hood, but remember, it's July or August. Why would they be wearing a hood?
Right.
Uh-huh.
It looked like a potato sack over their head.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, a haunted scarecrow.
Oh yeah.
Rice Tremonti and Aunt Sophie's cabin, and Adam and I call up Adam and tell Gid to stay in the house, and Adam and I go outside. I take one way to see if the potential knocker went to the side of the house. Adam takes the other way, and we found nothing.
Wow.
Absolutely nothing. And we even took our night vision cameras with us to see if anybody was lurking in the nearby woods that was behind there, and nobody ever popped out.
Wow.
Yep. And our car was right there, and we were parked right there. So if it was somebody, looking to, mess with our stuff, I think our car would have been affected by it. There was nothing, no signs of foul play around our car. So just in case, it was a live person. But
Right.
I don't know. We told the owner about that the next day, and he thought maybe, he couldn't explain it either. He thought maybe it was a guy named Dave just coming to check out what was going on. But he checked with Dave, and Dave said, no, I was home at that time. Plus it was probably after 11 p.m. that night.
Oh my gosh. I don't think he'd be out with a potato sack on his head, but
No,
you never
but
know.
on the video, you hear the 3
The
knocks real
oh my
clear.
gosh, that's crazy. That is
Again,
crazy.
it goes back to that old thing. The best ghost stories happen when you're not even looking.
That's right.
And that situation, Alec and I and Gideon, we just have a habit of like whenever we take a break to reset cameras or change out tapes, if we're still using, the videotapes, which we did on our last investigation, I think we did.
Mm-hmm.
But we always try to leave something running while we're doing that. And in this case, fortunately, we were in the back of the Rice Tremonti house where the kitchen was on my handheld camcorder. Still had plenty of tape, plenty enough time to run downstairs and change out that tape. So I just, standard practice for us is just if we have tape to roll, we'll just keep it rolling, but we'll put it in a spot where we can get a nice wide angle.
Right.
And the spot I chose was the back corner of the kitchen to shoot out into the dining room, to shoot out throughout the kitchen. And the location just happened to be right at the back door where you hear the screen door pop open and you hear somebody knocking 3 times
That's just crazy.
Very
I'd
lucky
probably
to
pee my
capture that.
pants.
She would.
It was very serious. Like, it spooked us. That was our first. Would you say that was our first big scare? Like serious. This is a possible real person scare.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Like
Yep.
us in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Edinburgh, always somebody traveling through and messing with us when
Yeah.
we're there.
Yeah.
Do you catch them?
Do you want
Yeah,
this
go
about
hunt them
the
down.
What was that?
Did you go hunt them down?
Oh, hang on. I'm losing my.
We've lost sound for a second.
Uh-oh.
Testing.
I can hear you. It's just not very loud.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, what'd you say?
Oh, I think we had, was Edinburgh where we had that strange little kid on a bike that was keep going up and down, or was that Buchanan? I can't remember, but Kim and Allison, did you go hunt that person down? Tell them leave you alone?
No, we didn't. We actually, what I did is I hit the lock button on the truck so that way it flashed my lights and stuff, and then he drove out.
Good idea.
Good idea.
It's like, I wish I just carried mace or something at some point. Because when we were at Villisca last year, we had a drunk come in. She was totally hammered.
Jeez.
And we were in the, right inside the door, and she comes in and is just like, I saw you guys upstairs, and I was going to come in and just scare you guys. And one of the girls was like, do you want to get the crap beat out of you?
Yeah,
and her husband had to drag her out.
Oh,
I was going to say, we haven't been there yet, but we know Johnny Hauser's nearby. Did you have to give him a call and be like, hey, you got someone unauthorized on your property?
No, actually, he came and met with us earlier, but he was heading out of town. So he's like, if you have any problems, just call the cop in town. It's his relative, like a cousin or something.
So he said,
Nice.
just tell him where you're at, and he'll be right over.
But we didn't.
Ooh.
We just let it slide. Maybe
Okay.
next time we'll charge him some money and give him a tour.
We'll
Sure.
make a little money for him. Let's see.
Okay, the winery. How many times have you guys done the winery?
Oh, wow. That's quite a bit. It's definitely was our busiest place. Official investigations, and also unofficial investigations where we just go up and enjoy the products that they sell. And Adam, he's got some great memories at Belvoir Winery.
I do.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
For the listeners at home, that's where I got married as well.
Yep.
Yep.
That would be awesome. But what's like the most memorable thing you've gotten there? Like captured or EVPs or anything? Do you have anything?
Yeah, there's so many stories we brought back from Belvoir Winery. We used to lead tours throughout the 4 buildings that are on the property. When we were leading one tour, it was in the hospital building, which is the furthest away from the main renovated building. And we all have, kind of stations when we're leading a group. Adam was getting ready to do an EVP session. Gideon was watching one hallway, and I was watching the other hallway, just because these buildings are exposed to the elements. There's no doors. So like what you had at Villisca, anyone could walk in. So I was watching my hallway and had a camera on it, but I wasn't looking through the camera. I was looking through, I was just watching the darkness basically, but I was focused on a window at the end of the hallway because I could see a light from a distance away. I think it was a parking lot light. So I was like, okay, perfect. That's going to keep me grounded while I keep a watch on this. And suddenly that light went away. It's almost like the darkness in the hallway took over. And then a couple seconds after that, a lady's hat flew off.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah, and she was freaking out, and we're like, man, did anyone get that on camera? That was awesome. I wish my hat would fly off. But our hats didn't fly off. But after that happened, she was done. She didn't want anything more to do with Ghost or Belvoir or us. But her hat. She said her hat flew off and she ran out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Nice. I don't know if
I
I'd
think
run
for
out.
me-
I'd be freaked out for a little bit, but I don't think I'd run out. I'd want more.
Yeah, you definitely just need to shake it off and get back in there.
Yep.
Because that's definitely a place you can explore for a very long time. There's two things that stick out in my mind for the Belvoir. One I captured on a stationary camera. Again, it's one of those that best ghost stories happen when you're not look for it. And we had just propped up a camera while we were either closing up or shutting down for the next part of the investigation. And I left it in the bar area.
Uh-huh.
And on our camera's audio, we captured what sounds like a girl's voice or a woman's voice that said, "We're scared, go away." And it was just four guys there. It's Alec, Gideon, and I, and the host that was showing us around.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking back to the Belvoir, because when you asked what was one of the best things that we captured there, at least it just got me to thinking when we were on the second floor of the old folks home, built in, I think that's the 1900 building, built in 1900. Used to have over 300 people in that building at one time. And that was a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it keeps fluctuating on how many people died there, but definitely a lot of people passed away there. But that second floor in the old folks home, I think was one of the first experiences I had where I heard my first solid disembodied voice. Like I actually heard a voice with my own ears. And what backs that up is that the host was with me as well, and he heard it as well. And we both turned at the same time, hearing this voice that we heard at, I guess it was sort of like a intersection of hallways. It's like, one hallway's going this way and the other perpendicular to it. And we both heard it and turned in the same direction. And we actually captured it on audio as well. It doesn't come through as clear on the audio, but that you can definitely hear something there that we both react to.
Wow.
And it was using a video camera. You can see me pivot with the camera to where we heard it as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely a very physical ghost there. Not physical in the sense that they're going to come out and grab you or scratch you, but they're able to physically speak to you. And that's intense.
Yeah, that's powerful there.
That's awesome. Well, Shay here said that she did a public bridge once, and a couple came by, asked about the cameras, and if we were investigating, then proceeded to go under the bridge and have sex.
While they were investigating this bridge.
Oh, good Lord.
Holy cow.
Oh, man. Can't top that one.
No.
I think she's got us all beat on that one.
I know, right? Oh, my gosh.
Talk about an unforgettable experience.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Traumatizing. Sometimes the people that are around these haunted locations, they're way scarier than the ghosts that are there. That's
true. True.
I'll agree.
That's true.
She says we have audio.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's some demonic screams there.
Definitely someone getting possessed.
Yeah. Oh man, Shay has opened us up right now.
I know, right? That's right.
I got a question. At Longview, when you were there, did you ever get somebody to dance with you while you were dancing?
I tried.
I know you were doing a good job dancing. I didn't know if anybody joined you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I thought I was doing great too. I was really out there cutting a rug, but never had any willing participants.
Yeah.
That sucks.
I know.
Hard. He tried hard, man. And Adam, he's usually our musical guy. We like to bring music anywhere we go because we think it acts as kind of a trigger object. We played schoolhouse songs in Farrar. We played stagecoach type songs, pioneer songs at Rice Tremonti. And at Longview Mansion, they used to have a pipe organ. And I got to tell you, a pipe organ in the middle of the night, that's a spooky sound.
Oh, I bet. Oh, my gosh.
But, yeah, they left Adam hanging that night. He was hoping to dance with Lula or one of Lula's friends, but...
Nothing
Nothing.
Oh, darn.
No kidding.
I know. So everybody got a free show of me doing my routine.
Hey, you just never know, though.
That's right. You never know.
I'd try.
And I got one question for you, Adam. When you
Yeah.
go on a honeymoon, does your wife, why'd you take your equipment with you?
I would say, yeah, she does like me to take my equipment with me. Don't you read into that too much. I asked for permission when we were going to historic locations on our honeymoon, such as Stonehenge, if it would be okay if I brought some ghost hunting equipment. And she was up for it. She was up for it.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah. And plus, I was going to do it either way, either something small, like a voice recorder. So, but yes, she was very open to the idea. She loved the idea as well, and she helped out extremely well. So she was helping me interpret the words that were coming through the Obelisk 5 at Stonehenge, and some of those words were. If you research more into the history of Stonehenge, some of those words were coinciding with its history, which made it kind of fascinating evidence.
Yeah. I got to watch part of it. I haven't got to watch it all yet.
Oh, it's all right. It's all right.
But yeah,
before we did that, I was actually talking with Alec. I'm like, would it be okay if we did a ghost hunt there? I mean, is there any rules or regulations against filming at Stonehenge and producing, evidence? Because you don't really ever see that. You don't really see anybody paranormal investigating Stonehenge.
No.
Or at least it's always history tours. So I didn't know. Alec looked it up, and do you remember what it said, Alec?
Yeah, so I found one site that seemed to be operated or very close to the operators of Stonehenge, and they were talking about the do's and don'ts that are on the tour, and they allowed various photographic and recording equipment. Mm-hmm. So I kind of said, that's your loophole right there.
That's right.
Kind of, right. And we're not making any money off of this. We're basically recording, documenting, and sharing to the public.
Yep, that's right. That's absolutely right.
So I said, go for it.
I think we have somebody on here, Tammy Beth.
Yeah.
Oh, Tammy Beth. Hi, Tammy.
She just joined us.
Yep.
Good.
Hey, Tammy. Yep. Yeah. We're great teams with Tammy. We've done Beatty Mansion together in St. Joe. We've done the Columbian Theater. They helped us out with a Halloween event this past year, and that was a crazy time. The Columbian Theater and Oz Museum, Belvoir. Man, Tammy and Jim of EVP, very trustworthy friends out there.
Well, that's good. I know we're trying to find a spot so we can go with you guys sometime. Besides Farrar.
Oh, I'm sure we can figure that out. We have options.
I know you got quite a few down that way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and usually March and April every year we kind of take the winter off when it comes to traveling, just because you don't know how the weather's going to be. Mm-hmm. But this is kind of kicking off our travel season, and Iowa's always on the list. And yeah, it's what's next up for Rep?
Where are we going next?
Malvern with Moth.
Oh yeah, that's right, Malvern.
Mm-hmm. Moth guys
in May.
Let's see.
Good.
Yep, May 25th. I had to look at my calendar. I was sending all kinds of weird dates out to people for that.
We have a question here. Do you have any public events where we can meet you guys?
The first one that comes to mind is June 1st, Alton, Illinois, at Mineral Springs Hotel. Alec and I will be there at Haunted Road Media Paracon.
Awesome.
And if you haven't been to Mineral Springs in Alton, Illinois, put it on your list, because you will not be disappointed, and you may not even be able to investigate it all in one night.
Oh, awesome.
It's a deep and dark place. It used to be a hotel, and it's kind of still an operating mall, and they got some unique shops like it's Raining Zen, kind of a spiritual guide type of store.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing it justice by explaining all the cool stuff that they have at this place. But yeah, June 1st in Alton, Illinois. Adam and I just went this past year for the first time to meet with Mike Ricksecker and Shauna. They put it on, and they put on an awesome event.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of paranormal teams come down there. A lot of people selling books. They have an educational speaker series. But the investigation that they open up to the public that night, man, they've got a slaughterhouse in the basement. They used to slaughter cows. That's some heavy energy down in the deep basement.
What's intense about that is that we can start from the top. So was it the second floor? There's a second or third floor. Either way, the top floor. It's you would be able to investigate that. It's all unrenovated hotel rooms that people used to stay in. You get to explore one level of that. Mm-hmm. You can explore the main ballroom where the actual Haunted Room Media Paracon goes on after hours. Of course, you get to explore that. One area of interest there is that they have a running water fountain that flows at the end of a hallway. Mm-hmm. And Lee Ehrlich and Mike Ricksecker were able to actually capture voices from the water noise that was echoing down this hallway. So this fountain sort of works like a SB7 spirit box in a way, or at least like a white noise generator.
Oh,
and you can actually capture voices that are responding directly to your questions through this hallway. So that's just on the main level. So that's two locations. You got the hotel floor, the unrenovated hotel floor. You got the main ballroom area and this fountain hallway. Then we go to the basement. I don't even know which part of the basement comes first. Quick spoiler alert, there's like 3 basements. So you go down one level, it's a pool. There's a emptied out pool that people used to go swimming in. Below that is the slaughterhouse Alec was talking about. And there may be a third room that we haven't even investigated yet. And these places are giant. The Mineral Springs is about a block wide and a block long. So it's huge.
Oh, jeez.
Nice. Put that on our list.
Yeah, put that on our bucket list.
Yeah, that's cool.
Do you guys have a bucket list investigation?
Yeah. It's for me. I definitely want to go to the Winchester House.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, just because I really like architecture and how buildings are structured. But you get psychological when it comes to Mrs. Winchester and what she tried to do to evade the spirits that she believed were haunting her. Right. So you've got trap doors, you've got wonky doorways and weird angles. And I just think that would be an awesome mind trip and kind of an awesome adrenaline rush to walk through those halls.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, they say she still walks the halls because she passed away in her house.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Believe it. Mm-hmm.
Do you have one, Adam?
I do. We were talking earlier how we were teaching that class to the middle schoolers. We were asked that question, and I said, any castle in Ireland. And I got to thinking more about that. Yes, any castle in Ireland will still do just fine. But also referencing back to the honeymoon, one of the places that we took a tour of was the Tower of London in London. And, it's been operating for 500 plus years or whatever. And, it used to be their prison. And we toured through that place, and they have ghost stories that you can find online. I think the Tower of London would be fantastic to investigate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that would be.
It's also where they keep the crown jewels.
There you go. That's right.
Let's see.
Do you have any questions or anything?
Not right yet.
Does anyone have any questions?
We got a few minutes left. Let's see.
Just waiting for that to load up to see if there's any questions. There's kind of a delay between.
That's okay. Yeah.
I'll fill it in.
Fill it in.
R.E.P. What is your favorite piece of equipment?
Mine is the SLS camera.
Oh yeah.
Nice. All right.
Did you have one of those?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Oh, those are awesome.
Still learning all the gadget with it and everything, and trying to figure out. But the best one was with Allison holding its hand, and it was interacting with her every time she'd ask a question or everything.
Yeah, if I danced, it danced. If I, said raise your right hand, it'd raise its right hand. It'd reach out and grab my hand. It was pretty cool, and I went through kind of an emotional trip with that. All different stages. Oh yeah.
And we did have at the principal's office at Farrar.
Oh.
We were inside the principal's office, and you could see this tall stick figure right next to Gina, one of our team, and walking up the stairs with her, and then held her hand, and then put the hand on her head like he was escorting her upstairs.
Wow. Oh, gosh, all that Farrar. Oh.
See, that brings credibility to the legend of Farrar. That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd say mine is the SB7. I like that a lot. However, the best one we had, I actually broke, so, you know.
It made a weird noise and it scared her.
It was doing some weird, funky stuff, and I chucked it and kind of broke it.
That was my next question. How did it break?
After that?
Yeah, we've had like 4 other ones after that. They're still not as good as the very first one I had, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Have you guys used the SB11?
No, we haven't.
Yeah, we've seen it in action. I think somebody at Mineral Springs, I think it might be Josh and Katie. I think they have one from Unknown Darkness. But yeah, it's something we've never really tried before, and something that's not in our armory of goods.
I've got one, and I like the REM pod on it because it actually worked for us.
You're right.
But when we have both sides going, it sounds like an Indian chant.
Yeah.
When we put it together.
Yeah.
Really? Huh.
Especially at Farrar and Miss Martin's room.
Oh,
it sounds like like an Indian chant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a long-running belief of mine. I believe it was when we met up with Mike Ricksecker again at one of the Paracons. Remember what convention that was, Alec?
That was the Iowa Paracon that the Alney brothers put on.
Okay, all right.
CNH and Will, and I think Wilson was out there too.
For our summer school. Was
it summer school?
Was it summer? Yeah.
Because they had everything set up in the gym, and
yeah.
Because that's the first time we met Mike.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, so that would have been it. That was the first time that I've always had this idea that Farrar may be haunted by the Native Americans that once were on that land. I was able to do some research on at least just the general area. They got that nearby Skunk River, but it's also called something else. What was it? The Green Valley, the Chippewa or something Valley?
Yeah, the Chippewa tribe was heavily populated in that area.
So I don't know why the Native Americans would be haunting it. I mean, you can go with the cliche Indian burial ground nearby, maybe, or possibly there, but I can't confirm that. All I know is that I've always had this feeling, much like a feeling that you get when you get goosebumps and a spirit's nearby, that it's Native American related, that could be adding to the haunting of Farrar. And going back to that summer school is that I actually brought with me a list of Native American words to try out.
Right, yeah, I remember.
Boiler room, and we were able to capture. I'm surprised I haven't made this more public. It's on our website and it's on our YouTube page. Is that I captured an orb, and just saying that, people are like, "Oh, yeah, an orb." Well, what's funny about this on video, while I was saying some of these names, this orb came in the view on my camera, and a lady reacts to it. She actually, that wasn't you, Allison, was it? I don't know if it was. I don't think it was you.
I was down there, but I can't remember who it was.
I think it was because you kind of looked down towards where the light anomaly was coming from.
Yes, and it just happened to coincide. So it's like one of those or light anomalies that pertain to a different piece of evidence where it came into view and it was either you or some other lady that reacted to it as if they saw something. So that's one of our most credible pieces of light anomaly evidence that happened in the boiler room.
And it was pitch black down there.
Right.
That room is always pitch black.
Had gone out. We could barely see faces. It was, we didn't have it illuminated with our lights like we usually do. And yeah, I think everybody wanted it as dark as possible.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Tammy wants to know, what about the Ovilus 5? I think it's your favorite equipment.
I would say that about 20% of the time it's accurate. Now, I will say that the Ovilus 5 is susceptible to, when you jar it around, move it around like this, it will automatically, I think it'll throw out words that do not make sense or pertain to investigation. But when you definitely hold it still, or what I like to do, it's kind of the reason why I made the Docupus with the arm that extends out in front of the camera, is that it holds it steady and away from me and away from the camera, so it can generate, words that aren't gibberish from it being, shaken around. I would say, 20% of the time, words that come through are definitely accurate to what's happening. One example of this was the Armstrong Church in Armstrong, Missouri. This was one of the first times that we used the Ovilus 5. I think it was. Or either we've had it for a while or something. But it was one of the first times where it said a word that actually pertained to something that we were doing. We were in the basement of this old church. We found an old candle. We lit it. Gideon was using the Ovilus 5. We had the Ovilus 5 sitting next to the candle while we were investigating the rest of this basement. All of a sudden, out of the blue, the Ovilus 5 said the word candle. And
nice.
To have an actual candle there lit, burning, and for it to say candle. Now, I've read a review on the Ovilus 5. Somebody broke it down and looked at all the parts. It has no microphone on it. It just has a database of words, and it's just supposedly supposed to interpret the feelings of whatever spirit's nearby. So for it to say candle next to a lit candle, I thought that was pretty credible. Pretty credible win for the Ovilus 5.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
We've got one, too. Half the time I forget to take it with me when we go investigate.
We did get it. We did get it in the Edinburgh. In Edinburgh.
Yeah, in Edinburgh we had it with us.
I set it in the coffin. And it did say, known death. And then it said L. Like, I never figured out what L was, if it was like initial for their name or what. But
so it was just the letter L?
Yeah, it was just the letter L. After it said death.
That's interesting.
That is weird. I think at Edinburgh, we got it came through with yellow pipes. That was Edinburgh too, right?
That was
pipes?
Actually yellow pipes.
So we were in the basement and we were like, what's this thing? It was really just rattling off a lot of words at that time. And this where we can say talking gibberish, and we stop paying attention to it. And then we're like, yellow pipes is really going crazy. But then we shone our flashlights up above in the basement, and there was yellow insulation along some of the water pipes that were there. I'm like, okay, maybe it is trying to tell us something.
That's pretty awesome.
We have another question, too.
Oh, yeah.
About the Ovilus. Explain what happened at the Beatty with the Ovilus in room 25 and 26.
Yes, that was weird. So that was with Jim and Tammy of Earthbound Voices Paranormal. And we were near, I forget the lady's name, but I guess she hung herself on one of the pipes that they had, exposed pipes that go across the ceiling. I don't know if it's gas pipe or what. I don't think it was a water pipe. You never know. But there was also a communication device. I guess it used to be a group home of sorts. So you could push different numbers to communicate with various rooms. But we kind of scanned the area with our K2 meters at that time. I don't think our K2s were detecting any form of electromagnetic activity. So we assumed that there was no power going to that communication device. big box of buttons pushed. But yeah, the Obulus that night threw out some pretty relevant words. I think it said push, and I think it might have said button. I can't remember the exact words that it said, but it did tie in to that communication device, and it was right next to the room where we were told that had some of the most energy still in the big mansion.
It was kind of like one of those old-fashioned call boxes that when you're a patient in a room, you'd press a button and it would let the nurse know what room is having trouble. It was one of those devices.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So, and what they're talking about, I think in the question was room 25 or 26, like Alec was saying, a lady had hung herself. I can't remember the exact words as well, but one of the words I do remember was the word hung that came up when we were near those rooms.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. All right. Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome. Oh, Tammy said, remember, it put out a bunch of words when you hit the doorway.
Yeah, right into the doorway of, I think, room 26 sounds familiar for sure. I think it was definitely one of the rooms on the end.
Yeah, as soon as we walked in that room, that was next door to the place where the lady hung herself. As soon as we walked in that door, it started just spitting out a lot of words. Then we'd walk out, and it was silent. Then we'd walk back in, and it started going again.
That's it.
Gosh, that's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Does anyone else have any final questions?
Give them a few seconds.
Yeah, we're just going to give them a few seconds and see if there's anything else they want to say before we start wrapping things up.
That's fine.
We've been on an hour.
Hey, yeah, we made it.
Well done.
And we didn't, what was it last time?
Dead air a lot.
Well, it kept kicking us out. So we
Oh,
had to
no.
restart.
Nope.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, I think we're good then. Thank you
That's
guys
cool.
so much for being on tonight.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll have
Anytime.
you hang on while we shut things down. And
I'm going to give our shout outs here real quick.
Yep.
Let's see, to Matt, Shay, Tammy, Jen, B, Eye of the Beholder,
Nice. Good Metallica song.
Wolf.
Oh, and of course, Cam and I wasn't on there tonight. All right, I think that's
Pretty much
everyone who's commented
That's a-
tonight.
that's
So
a good
thank you,
crew.
everyone, and thank you guys for being on.
Of course.
Let me.
We'll have you hang on a second. And we'll get this wrapped up.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for having us, everyone.
Thank you for listening to REP Paranormal and Friends. Be sure to check out Kim and Allison on Facebook at REP Paranormal Busters.